Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining Tethr today for our webinar titled The Secret to Your Success, Customer Calls with Context. We're so excited to be joined by one of our customers, Wesley Higgins of Alabama Power. He is the Manager of Customer Service Operations, Support and Online Services. He's going to tell us a little bit more about how through listening to their customer calls and gleaning context from those calls, they were able to assure success for some of their most important customer initiatives. We're also joined by Jamie O'Connell. She's a Vice President here with Tethr. Jamie, I'm going to hand it over to you in just a moment. A bit of a housekeeping item, though. If you have any questions for us, please submit them via the Q&A prompt in your WebEx interface, and we will, if we are not able to answer them during the call today, we'll get back to you as soon as we can with answers after the webinar. Thanks again for joining. Jamie, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Good morning and good afternoon. So delighted to be spending 30 minutes with you today and talking to you a little bit about what we're uncovering in the marketplace relative to the voice channel. I'll be sharing some information and asking Wesley to share some of his successes as well. But first, let me ask the group, has anyone ever said this to you? Have you said this to anyone on your team? Well, whether the goal is actually to save money, make money, enter new markets, improve your products or services, essentially making it happen is what we're all told and expected to do. Now we have to ask ourselves, are we putting the customers at the core of our decisions on how we're all going to go collectively and individually make it happen? If you are putting your customers first, then why are sometimes your key initiatives taking a little bit too long to actually yield the right impact, or perhaps not yield enough impact? Why are sometimes a downward trend in sales when you still see costs going up? If you're like most of our customers, you probably receive reports every day providing with information on your sales pipeline, customer satisfaction survey results, company risk and competitive analysis. But these reports are all too often missing a critical data source: direct customer phone conversation insights. And so how can a customer-driven organization truly be successful if it's not listening to and capitalizing on the information that customers are sharing via your voice channel? So if customers are not at the center of your decision-making process today, they should be. Because according to this data, it's extremely expensive to not put your customers first. And this actually transcends industries. It's true in B2B, it's true in B2B2C, and it's true in traditional B2C. So let's stop and think for a moment. Are we really listening to our customers? Once considered a valuable interaction between a customer and a company, the phone call is now regulated to this necessary evil status. It's overhead. It's something we actively try to get rid of or reduce. And so as a result, organizations are not treating their contact centers like the gold mine of information that it is. But you've been looking at this customer phone channel, that necessary evil, for long enough. Now we're able to actually change the dynamic and tap into the voice channel for business-changing insights. With the ability to listen to and analyze every phone call, you can better understand your customers, their needs, your competition, your own brand, and areas of risk and sales effectiveness so that you can make better decisions about transforming your business. Moreover, these insights can actually be leveraged around the entire enterprise because the voice channel is generating one of the last explored data sets, but it's not just feeding back into customer care. You already know this. Companies spend millions to bombard customers with irrelevant mass market messages that have little to no impact. The communication smog is getting thicker by the minute. Phone conversations, communications between human beings, is one of the most authentic forms of customer-to-company conversations, and it's one of the few ways you have to make a true connection with your customers and influence them directly. And in return, they're giving us incredibly valuable information that we can port into functions across the enterprise. But today, the voice channel is rarely included in decision-making processes or prioritizations. The insights that come from these calls are very rarely elevated to the C-suite. But the organizations that can realize the power of this data set and unlock it to transform business will win. So also don't forget that your voice channel is giving you a unique opportunity to offer dialogue between two human beings. And to achieve your company objectives, what you'll be able to do is think about how are you going to better prepare, train, track, and measure how frontline team members are delivering against your objectives. You need to leverage these insights and findings to prioritize and plan the initiatives, and then to understand what tools your employees would need in order to be successful. So this is now your opportunity to gain a better handle on how your frontline agents are engaging with your customers, how they're essentially representing your brand and your company, and how your customers are reacting in response. So how do we do that? Well, organizations in the past have struggled to extract value from customer phone calls because it's large, unstructured data. And we know that in any case, is hard to analyze, it never stops growing, and it's always in motion. So it's this dark data set that we've got to somehow unlock. But we also know that time to insight is critical. So we don't have the opportunity to have stabs of people mining through calls, listening one at a time, trying to generate, patterns, all just with the human capacity. We have to act faster than that as things are happening. Yes, and also organizations have been trying to siphon value from voice data through sentiment analysis as well. So good, bad, yes, no, happy, sad. But without really any insight as to why those things were happening in the first place, or what the agents or reps did to actually course correct. We've also seen organizations that have shown us their transcripts, pages and pages, reams of transcripts that ultimately don't tell them much. They're checklists. And then worse, on top of this, you're actually only able to listen to a tiny percentage of calls to begin with. The market is telling us that none of these methods are really providing actionable insights that organizations need to deliver the authentic experience for customers that they want while they're keeping their costs lower. And this is where Tethr comes in. Your customers are calling, and Tethr can do the listening. In fact, we listen to and analyze every single customer phone call. But most importantly, what Tethr is doing is surfacing the contextual understanding from these valuable conversations. Contextual because it includes the entirety of the conversation, not just the syllables that are spoken. That will actually allow you to make smarter business decisions based on the true voice of the customer. With Tethr, you can now measure what matters and share voice channel insights across your organization to have lift on sales results and conversion, customer loyalty, operating costs, compliance, and risk. Now, Alabama Power understands the importance of customer centricity. They provide electricity to 1.4 million customers in the state of Alabama. And as you'd imagine, as a regulated utility, customer service is job one. The organization is constantly looking for ways to better serve its constituents and meet their increasing needs. But for the past 2 years, its customer service team has been 15% shy of their staffing rate. But as you'd expect, they're being held to the same high standards around performance and cost and efficiency as if they were fully staffed. So Wesley Higgins, who's joining us today, who's the manager of customer service operations support and online services, knew that if he could listen to every phone conversation and analyze it with context, he could then have access to the insights that would help him achieve his corporate initiatives, like increasing efficiency, keeping costs low, and keeping customer satisfaction high. But he also knew he personally couldn't, or even with a team of people, listen to all of those phone conversations. So he called on Tethr. And today, Tethr listens to and analyzes customer service phone conversations at Alabama Power and systematically extracts insights, contexts, and correlations from calls that would help his team become more successful in achieving tangible business objectives that you're going to hear about today. So I'd love to turn it over to Wesley, and Wesley, have you share how Tethr has helped you to transform your business around your corporate initiatives.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for everybody for joining us today. In my role, we're faced with a lot of different corporate initiatives, one of which probably everybody that impacts everybody in every company is this charge to reduce budget or to lower your cost. And so with that directive, we were trying to come up with ways that we could do that. And the example we're going to discuss today is our approach to moving more customers over to paperless billing. Our paperless billing costs are around $6 per customer per year. So with 1.4 million customers, there's a lot of savings on the table for that. One thing that we did was back in 2016, we partnered with our revenue accounting department, and we really worked with them to come up with ways that we could help reduce that postage cost and increase our online bill payment. So a good partnership was with our customer service center. We handle about 3 million phone calls a year, and that's a lot of opportunities where we can talk to these customers. Often the customers that are calling us are not the ones that are on paperless billing. So it gave us a really good platform, and so we decided to do a training initiative with those employees and give them ideas and ways that they could promote paperless billing on their phone conversations. So in 2016, we set out a goal to be at 20% adoption by the end of the year, but in reality, we fell short of that goal, and we were at only 19.2%. So we were scratching our heads trying to figure out what happened. We thought that the goal was easily attainable. We actually had hoped that we would surpass that goal. But, we got with our quality analyst team, and they had listened to several phone calls, but they just really couldn't listen to enough phone calls. Typically, they would listen to between 4 and 8 phone calls per agent per month, and they were finding, some gaps that they were able to identify, but really just not really the depth or breadth that we needed in order to understand what was going on. They would listen to phone calls one month, and they would have to listen to several phone calls and still not get a phone call that was a good example of what they needed. So it was really hard to gauge what our agents' compliance was in our training plan. So what we did was we partnered with Tethr late in 2016. We loaded a lot of phone calls into the system and started doing text analytics and using their tool to really, look at a much larger percentage of those phone calls. We were able to identify keywords and phrases that we were able to use and find the phone calls that would be relevant to the initiative that we were working on. And through that, we really identified some gaps in our training platform that we had delivered, and we were able to see some good examples of our customer service associates that were selling paperless and doing a good job of that. And we saw some examples of employees that were struggling, and they weren't using the right words and phrases. So what we were able to do was really take a step back, use that data, and recreate a new training plan that we rolled out in 2017. And with that training plan, we took and we developed kind of a role play with our agents where we used some true life examples and we were able to give them some scripts and some words and phrases for those agents that were doing it right. Then we rolled through that training again, and with that refresh, and that was able to help our paperless promotions. Another part that we did was coaching with individual employees. So often we do training with a large group, but then when we see something go wrong, we do another big effort with the whole group, when really it's not the whole group that's failing at that particular area. So the individualized coaching goes a lot further for us. So we were able to take Tethr and use their platform to really, dig into some of that specifically down to the agent level. So what we've got now is an example of one of our dashboards that we're able to access through the Tethr tool. It's taken all of our phone conversations that we load in there, and then it can analyze them based on the categories and the topics that we select and choose, and then it can give us some trend lines based on each of our locations. It can break it down by supervisor teams, and then we can even drill down to the individual customer service agents. So you can see on the left, we've got the paperless offer rate, and you can see that, for our entire center, we're at about overall with about a 13.3% offer rate. But then over on the right side, you can drill down further, and you can see what those individual agents are doing. And this helps us quickly identify those agents that are doing a better job than our center average. You can see like Randall Harris there, he's got a 26.8% offer rate on paperless. So I'm going to drill into him, and I want to listen to more phone calls about him and use his examples as a potential for some of my agents that aren't performing as well. So this screen here is one of those examples where you can drill in and you can actually play the call on screen. You'll see as you go along that player, there's different category flags that say account, website issue, repeat call. So those are different categories that we created that we're wanting to track. But one of them, of course, is paperless billing in this example. So as a supervisor, I can click on that word, paperless billing. It'll take me directly to that point in the phone call and start playing. It can also take me down to the text that was transcribed from the phone call, and I can read the words and phrases that agent was using. And then I can also create some comments or notes on this, so maybe I want to refer to it later. So I make a comment, here's a really good paperless spiel that this rep did, and kind of make a note of it. Or I can shoot it over the wall to my neighbor supervisor and use Tethr to alert them and say, hey, here's a good example you might want to use with your agents. So we can use that type of tool to share these calls to other supervisors on our team. But what we can do is we can also bring in the agent, and we can play this call for them, talk to them about paperless billing, congratulate him for doing a great job on paperless billing. Then we can do other things with it, and we can find the opposite. We can find phone calls that paperless billing is not offered, and that's powerful as well. So we can bring in some of those lower performing agents and have a coaching session with them, quickly find calls where paperless wasn't offered, and we can listen to those with the agent, and then we can have that agent in the room with us and say, all right, well, let's listen to another call about a different agent and how they promoted paperless, and then play that for them and really help develop that employee into being a stronger salesperson and do a better job of positioning paperless. But that's just some of the features that we've been using in the Tethr tool to help us come out with the results that we've been very, very glad to have. And as far as results, we've seen a big increase in our compliance, along with the training material that we delivered to our agents. While we don't script them per se, we do give them keywords and phrases that we recommend them using, and so we've identified those in Tethr, and we're trying to use that to make sure that they are following along with the training parameters that we gave to them. And we've seen a big increase in that after we went through our second round of training. First round in 2016, it didn't take. We got Tethr, we learned more, we got those words and phrases and role-playing, and we've seen a much better adoption rate on our training material. And because of that, that's increased the amount of paperless billing subscriptions that we've had. Before our new effort, we were seeing about 400 to 500 new subscribers a week, and then now we're seeing 1,600 to 1,800 new subscriptions a week. So it's a big difference there. We're actually ahead of target on our paperless goals for this year, and we're tracking very well to end out the year in the 23 to 24% paperless rate. So doing a really good job. They really appreciate the results that we've been seeing through this initiative. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Jamie.
Terrific. What I would love to do is have a little bit of time for some Q&A if there are questions in the queue that we can look at, but also share with you a really interesting opportunity. One of the things that Tethr can do is actually a historical call analysis. So what we can do is take calls that have already occurred, get them batch sent over to Tethr, and we can run some of the calls and analytics to actually give you all that are joining the discussion, the webinar today, exposure to how this would look like, what these insights would look like for your own organization. So think of that as a proof of concept, if you will. So the first thing I'd invite you to do, each of you, is to be in touch with us if that is of interest and you'd actually like us to do a historical call analysis. We're going to make that available again to all the organizations that have joined us on the phone today. But beyond that, are there any other questions in the queue? Lacey, if you see any questions, would you let us know?
One of the questions that I see here is, what are some other ways that organizations have used Tethr for other corporate initiatives or other areas of focus? How have they been able to use calls, data to impact other areas within their organization?
Sure. So TruGreen is a customer of ours who has an inside sales force. And as you know, they actually call homeowners and try to get people to get signed up for lawn service. So they actually had an initiative, not unlike most organizations, but which is to improve their conversion rate on those outbound sales phone calls. They knew who was performing better and how many calls they were doing, but they couldn't really pinpoint what was happening in those outbound sales calls amongst the sales reps. So they actually brought Tethr in to listen to their inside sales calls, and we could actually make all of the correlations and find the insights that helped us to unlock things like what's being said, how are they handling objections, what offers are resonating the most, so that they could go and apply those learnings so that they could see their own lift in conversion rates within TruGreen. A different example is in a financial services organization. They have us leveraged from a compliance standpoint. So they actually have very specific securities requirements, and they're required to make sure that they're not in violation, of course. So in this particular organization, we listen to 100% of their trading phone calls so that we can catch and identify where there are possibly any infractions and bring that to them as opposed to a third-party auditor finding it instead.
You know, an area that we're looking at Alabama Power, we're actually in the process of developing it right now with Tethr, is the quality monitoring evaluations and using speech analytics to monitor our phone calls and track for proper greeting, proper closing. You know, are they offering products and services at the right time of the call? You know, how long they're on hold? You know, just different things. Are they using words of empathy or sympathy with our customers? And so, you know, if we could do that, then that could help us reduce cost in our quality analyst department.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. And so what we've seen, I think, across the board is ways to immediately offset other costs so that Tethr actually isn't viewed as a net new item to the budget, but rather something where you can see incredibly quick ROI either through, you know, reduction or redeployment of QA or sales conversion lift, operational cost savings like Wesley talked about with paperless billing. So this is a solution that will pay more than pay for itself. And it's an enterprise solution. So you have one instance of Tethr, but anybody can use it to look for anything in those phone calls. without any professional services fees.
Great, thank you, Jamie. There are no other questions at this time.
Wonderful. Well, again, the invitation is extended for us to do this historical call analysis for you and run your own data through the platform so that you can see the types of results that we would have if we were running live in production. And so I encourage you to be in touch with Tethr. You can get a hold of us through our website, of course, or at Lacey@tethr.com. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thank you all for dialing in today. We'll make sure that this webinar recording is available so you can share it with your team members, and also we'll send a follow-up email to you with my contact information. So if you'd like to learn more about Tethr, about what Alabama Power has achieved with us, we would love to hear from you. Thanks again for calling, and everyone have a great day.